All right, so if you live in an apartment building or one of those planned communities, you've definitely run into something called a Homeowners Association, or an HOA. Now, in India, you'll probably hear them called RWAs, Resident Welfare Associations, or even cooperative societies. They can feel like this mysterious group that just loves making rules and collecting your money. But what are they really? And why do they matter so much? Well, today, we're going to break it all down.
Let's start with a really simple, powerful fact. That home you live in, it's yours. You own it. It's probably one of the biggest, most important investments you'll ever make. That space is your private kingdom.
But what happens the moment you step outside your front door? Who owns the swimming pool, the gym, the gardens? Suddenly, you're in a shared space. And shared spaces, well, they need rules and a system to manage them. That's where things start to get interesting.
And that's really the core challenge of living in a community, isn't it? How do we manage all this shared stuff so it doesn't fall apart? Well, that is precisely the job the Homeowners Association was created to do. So yeah, here's the official definition. But I want you to focus on one key idea here: community self-management. This isn't just some random company. An HOA is a legal entity, usually a nonprofit, that's literally created by the property owners for the property owners. And its number one job? Protecting everyone's investment. You know, the absolute best way to think about this is as your community's very own mini-government. I'm serious. It makes rules, which are basically local laws. It collects maintenance fees, which are kind of like taxes to pay for services. And it maintains all the common areas: the security, the landscaping, the gym. That's your public works department. It's governance, just on a super small scale.
Okay, so if it's a mini-government, it's gotta have laws, right? A constitution? Of course. An HOA is no different. So let's take a look at the documents that make up its legal DNA.
Now, this might look a little complicated, but it's really just a pecking order. Right at the very top, you've got federal and state laws. Your HOA can't just ignore those. Then you work your way down through the community's own governing documents. And here's the golden rule you have to remember. A rule at the bottom can never contradict something that's higher up on this pyramid. State law always wins.
So for you as a homeowner, there are three big ones to know. First, the CC&Rs. This is the community's constitution. It's a big deal. It's tied to the land itself, and it's legally binding on every single owner. Then you have the bylaws. Think of this as the operating manual. It explains how the mini-government actually runs: elections, meetings, all that stuff. And finally, the rules and regulations. This is the stuff you deal with every day: parking, pets, and pool hours. It's your daily life guide.
So who actually writes these rules and runs this whole mini-government? Well, that would be your neighbors, the people you see at the mailbox. They get elected to what's called the managing committee, or the board of directors.
And let me tell you, this is not a small job. The board has some very real power. They can enforce the rules, they collect all the money needed to keep the lights on, they're in charge of repairs, and they even have to step in when neighbors are fighting. It's a volunteer job, but it comes with a ton of real-world responsibility.
But with that kind of power comes accountability, which raises a really good question. Can just anyone be in charge? The answer is no. There are actually very specific things that can disqualify a person from being on the committee.
And here are the big ones. It's pretty logical, really. If you haven't paid your own dues for 3 months, how can you manage the community's money? If you've broken major rules, like renting your place out when you're not supposed to, you're out. A serious criminal conviction is an obvious red flag. And this one is crucial. You must be the registered legal owner on paper. Tenants or family members whose names aren't on the deed can't run for the board.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the association's power. So let's flip the script and talk about you, the individual homeowner. What are your rights, and what are your responsibilities in all of this?
It is so important to remember this. Your HOA doesn't just get to make up rules in a vacuum. It operates under state laws, big ones like the Apartment Ownership Acts. These laws provide the legal backbone for everything, establishing your fundamental rights as an owner and the legal duties of the association. They're there to protect everyone.
Now, one of the most critical moments in any community's life is the handover from the builder to the residents. And it's way more than just getting the keys. The builder has a legal duty to provide a mountain of paperwork: the title deed, all the NOCs, perfectly audited financial records, and the homeowners, their duty is to scrutinize everything. They need to inspect every pump, check every lift, and audit every single rupee before they agree to take control.
And I want you to remember this number: 5, as in 5 years.
Under regulations like RERA, the builder has what's called a defect liability period. This means that for 5 years after that handover, if you find structural defects or just plain shoddy work, the builder is legally on the hook to fix it, at their own cost. This is a huge, powerful right for homeowners. You see, the duties of the managing committee are not just about keeping the gardens looking nice. They carry immense legal weight. And when those duties are neglected, the consequences can be absolutely devastating.
Take a look at this quote from a recent court ruling. It's chilling. Prima facie negligent. Those are words no volunteer board member ever wants to hear from a judge. Let's dig into this case.
The facts of this case are heartbreaking, and they serve as a stark warning. A 9-year-old girl tragically drowned in a community swimming pool that was allegedly left unattended. A criminal complaint was filed directly against the HOA's office bearers. The High Court later clarified that while there was obviously no intent to cause harm, the lack of basic safety measures was enough to constitute negligence causing death, a serious criminal offense. The members of that board are now facing trial.
And this case drives home the ultimate point. Being on an HOA board is not some ceremonial role. You have a legal duty of care to the residents, and failing to provide basic safety, like making sure there's a lifeguard or a proper fence around a pool, can lead to not just civil lawsuits, but actual criminal charges.
So after all that, you might be asking, why even have an HOA? Here's the thing. A well-run association is the single best tool you have for protecting the value of your home. It creates order out of what could be chaos. It ensures the community doesn't fall into disrepair. It gives everyone a legal structure to coexist. But that key phrase is well-run, and that requires active participation from owners like you.
Which brings us right back to our central idea. Your HOA isn't some external force. It is the community. It's your mini government. And just like any government, it functions best when its citizens are informed, engaged, and willing to participate. So the real question isn't just about what your HOA does, it's about what role you play within it.